Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Barth. I'm a public information officer with Pacific Northwest Team 2, and I wanted to welcome you all to the Schneider Springs Fire virtual public meeting for Friday, August 27th. Thank you for tuning in and joining us tonight. We hope to provide you with a lot of great updates and information about the Schneider Springs Fire. And then at the end of our meeting, we'll be looking forward to answering your questions and comments. Please go ahead and put those questions and comments early in the chat so that we can get them to the appropriate speakers when we get to the question and answer portion of the meeting. Again, thank you and welcome, and look forward to your engagement tonight. Currently, as of this morning, the fire is 75,055 acres. It remains at 8% contained. We have 670 personnel assigned to the fire, again, as of this morning. Again, I wanted folks to know this meeting will be recorded. It will also be posted at the end of the meeting to both Facebook and on our YouTube channel, and those will both have closed captioning. So you can share the meeting with your friends and watch it on either platform at the conclusion of the meeting. And again, another reminder, if you do have questions and comments throughout the meeting, please put them in the comment section. We look forward to answering those. Tonight, for our lineup, we have a number of speakers that have information to share with you about the current status of the Schneider Springs Fire. We're going to start this evening with our incident meteorologist, Chuck Redmond, who's going to be speaking, followed by our fire behavior analyst, that's Baird. Then we're going to have our operations section chief, Reggie Bray, followed by the Yakima County Emergency Manager, Tony Miller. We'll hear from the U.S. Forest Service, Natchez Ranger District, Aaron Stockton. Then from Washington DNR, and there'll be Miles Pollock. Then we'll hear from Niles Cliffdale Fire and Rescue, Ryan Clark. And then the Natchez Fire and Rescue, Alan Baird. And then we'll have closing comments by our incident commander, Rob Allen. Again, at the end of our speakers, we'll be looking forward to answering your questions. So with that, I'd like to ask our incident meteorologist, Chuck Redmond, to come on up and present.
Good evening, everybody. Chuck Redmond, National Weather Service Office in Boise. I'm also the incident meteorologist on the Schneider Springs Fire. So the weather pattern we got over the fire, or over basically the Pacific Northwest, the last couple of days has really basically been a roller coaster. We have a series of systems come in to the region, cool us off, and then high pressure builds back in, and we start warming back up. So we're kind of coming to that trough right now, or just exiting that trough, and we're going to start warming things up through the weekend. So we're basically, when that high pressure system comes in, like I said, we'll be warming things up, drying, the humidities are going to be lowering, and the winds are going to be a lot less. We've had quite a bit of northwesterly winds over the fire the last few days. That's transitioning to basically light and variable wind over the ridges and also in the valleys. So, after this weekend, we are basically going to be going back into a trough. It's ups and downs. Another storm system is going to be coming in on Monday. So we're going to see those light winds become strong gusty northwest winds again on Monday and Tuesday as another storm system comes in. But when this high pressure does come in, like I said, we're going to have lower RHs. But what that's also going to be doing, which is critical, is thermal belts are going to start forming over the area again. What that means is basically lower humidities in the lower drainages, the valleys, but a lot drier air over the ridge tops. So the last couple of days, we've had humidities recover basically 70 to 90%. And when this high pressure system comes back in, the ridges are going to be drying out or have worse recovery, basically back down 30, 40, 50%. So conditions will stay dry, warm in the mid levels of the ridges of the fire. And that just will allow that fire to probably continue to burn or stay active in those areas. And then, like I said, another storm system comes in Monday, Tuesday, cool things off again below normal, but also give us those strong gusty northwest winds across the fire area through at least middle of the week. So if you guys got any questions, I'll be standing by off to the side.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Barry Kleckler. I'm the fire behavior analyst that's working here with the incident management team. My job as a fire behavior analyst is to predict movement and spread of the wildfire, with the main goal, the primary objective of that is keeping our firefighters and the public safe as our firefighters are working out there and our public lives in the area. When we can predict when and where the fire activity will increase and how far, what direction it's going to move. Also gives us the ability to identify values that might be at risk and to prioritize our efforts where they can be most effective by finding features where our firefighters can have the most success on the landscape. We do this by analyzing 3 factors in the fire behavior landscape. We look a lot at weather, we look at topography, and we look at fuels. Weather we get from our incident meteorologist. He gives us a daily forecast, sometimes hourly, giving us updates on our expected weather conditions. We're paying attention to wind, which has a big increase on, or big influence on what direction the fire will spread. We're also looking at the relative humidities that he gives us because that has a great effect on our fine fuels, the grass, the brush, the type of fuels that carry our fire. For our heavier fuels, we look at longer term impacts, the days since rain and long-term drought, like much of Eastern Washington has been in for the past year. Next thing we start looking at is fuels. And we look for, to be successful in firefighting, we look for areas of lighter fuels or less continuous fuels. These can be naturally created. They can be areas of lots of rock, that sort of thing, or they could be man-made. They can be roads. They can be established fuel breaks. What you're seeing on the screen now is a fuel break that was performed by the local national forest. It's in an area with the road right in the middle of it. We're using it as a feature to give us the most success that we have. You can see us in an area with quite a bit heavier timber fuels surrounding it. And this is the kind of work that the Forest Service does to set us up for these fires when they happen. Next thing, finally, we'll talk about topography. When we look at topography, what's generally understood is that fire burns faster uphill with higher intensity. It burns more slowly downhill with a little lower intensity. If we can go to the next image, what we want to look at, though, is on these steep slopes, when we have our backing fire, it burns downhill slowly, but that's not always the best place to fight fire, even as that fire is burning downhill slowly, as logs burn out, and trees fall down, those sort of things, tends to roll down on steep slopes and get below our firefighters. Other heavy things, big rocks burn down or fall down as the logs burn out from underneath them. And mid slope is never really a good place to fight fire, no matter if we're above or below the fire. So to wrap things up, what we've been seeing lately for the last week or so on this fire is moderate surface fire, basically spreading in surface fuels with really only some occasional torching of individual trees. It's not spreading very quickly on its own, but what we can expect to see in the next few days is an increase in fire behavior based on the weather that Chuck gave us. We'll see with the warmer and drier weather, we'll see this increase in fire behavior, but we'll also have wind directions that are favorable to the management actions that our firefighters are planning on taking. Our plan does involve lighting some of those lower intensity fires to back them off of ridge tops, but we're doing this to avoid having those high intensity fires moving uphill towards our firefighters. The other thing you're going to continue to see in the next few days as activity picks up is those low intensity backing fires backing down the hill towards established containment lines at the bottom of the hill. Where we don't go up on those mid slopes and try to stop fire. We're going to be kind of letting those come down to us, ready to take suppression actions when the fire gets to the bottom of the hill. So that's our fire behavior talk for the evening. If you have any questions, I'll be around when the briefing is done and try to answer them then. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Reggie Berry, Operations Section Chief for Pacific Northwest Team 2. And this will be the operational update portion of the meeting. Really, a lot of good work has been accomplished since our last public meeting. I'll just start to go around the fire and give you the operational update. We'll start over on the west side in the William O. Douglas Wilderness, continuing to see some movement in Hindu Creek, seeing that fire move to the west, just when it gets in alignment, some of the stuff that Barry talked about with fire behavior, but starting to burn out some of those drainages uphill, upslope runs. As we get up to the Bumping River and the Bumping River Road, a lot of good work has been done just north of Goose Prairie and around the piece of fire that moved down to the river, getting a lot of good containment there, patrolling that mop up. It's really in a patrol and monitor stage right now. As we move up to the north part of the fire, we talked about our strategies the last time. We really are focusing on these values along the 410 and the Bumping River and the Natchez River corridor. Crews have been establishing indirect line around those structures and also doing structure assessment and a triage. So they're continued to work down toward Cliffdale. This is a part of the fire where on the north flank just continues to back up here above Gold Creek. This continues to back down the slope, and this is some of the area that Barry mentioned, that when he talked about the fire backing down, waiting for us to grab it. It's just not safe for us to put firefighters up there, but we have a really good plan here for the community of Cliffdale, really focusing on just making sure those structures are safe when fire does get down there. We have a plan. Also working on this containment line that comes off of the 258 road, which is up above Clover Springs, back down to the river. And then we'll come up with a plan. If fire begins to move down that way, we'll look at some kind of firing actions to secure all the community of Cliffdale and keep it safe. As here on as we move to the kind of south along the east side of the fire toward Nile, this continues to be in a patrol status. We're just have resources check that every now and then. It's been controlled for several days now. Really seeing no issue there. Community of Nile is pretty secure here. So a lot of the effort that we've been putting on this fire is on the south part. This is where the fire really wanted to, just with the weather we've been having, we know that it wants to move to the southeast. We also want to protect all these values along the 410, Natchez, along the 12 highway corridor as we get over to Rimrock Lake. All of those values are very important, as well as because this is where the fire wants to go. So this is the first place we needed to put some of our most of our resources to start to build containment lines. We mentioned Bethel Ridge and the importance of establishing a control line there all the way back to the wilderness along Bethel Ridge down to the 199 road up into the Burnt Mountain Trailhead. A few days ago, we've been working the last week or so to establish those indirect lines. And a couple of days ago, we initiated some firing actions up here on Bethel Ridge. That's progressed over the last couple of days down to Carmack. Resources are currently firing down toward the Bethel Ridge Road toward Nile. And we hope that by tonight, we'll have this whole southeast corner of the fire locked in in containment, at least with fire out to the roads, and then starting to fill in some of the gaps, just easing that fire down the hill toward Little Rattlesnake. We're doing that with several tools, ground lighting with crews on the ground, and also we're using UAS, unmanned aircraft systems, drones, to monitor and make sure we don't have any spotting, and also to drop plastic fears or actually drop PSD balls here and just build depth to keep that fire from pushing our containment lines if it wants to come up out of Little Rattlesnake Creek and burn up the hill toward us. We're continuing to build this containment line. We have a little bit of work left as we get toward the comm tower site here above the 15 road system and the 199. And we're going to continue looking at firing opportunities in the next couple of days to tie all this together and have this burnout completed. While we're doing that, we're also building some alternate control lines just in the event that something doesn't hold. We have these alternate lines in place coming down the 15 road to Wildcat. It drops down to the 380 road system and then over into Indian Creek. And that is to secure all of the structures and the cabins on the north side of Highway 12, just north of Rimrock. And we'll have those secured just in the event that fire continues south. One thing that we have been doing, Wildcat Road had a washout. We were able to work off of some other road systems here to the south and get up on the 380 road to get around that and tie into the 1308 or the Indian Creek Road. Again, just prioritizing, our efforts are to keep fire from moving to the southeast and protect these structures. We're building a triage assessment plan, and we hope to have that available to the local fire districts as well as the local agency to, in the event that we have to implement that or for future use. That's the end of the operational update. I'll be around to answer questions later. Thank you.
Good evening, Tony Miller with Emergency Management. We're going to talk a little bit about evacuations tonight. So no evacuation levels are changed as of this last meeting we had. So just to recap, the Bumping Lake Road is still in a level 3 for as of right now. Highway 410, we're going to keep it a level 2. And of course, Highway 12, we're still at a level 1. With the weather coming in and stuff, we're going to keep Bumping Lake Road at a level 3. We are going to revisit it here in a few days and see what we can get that changed along with Highway 410. As soon as we have those changes, we'll make sure those get up and updated immediately. Any questions, please feel free to ask. Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Aaron Stockton, the District Ranger on the Natchez Ranger District. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our forced closures and some updates with that. At the last meeting, I discussed that we would be looking at opening some areas in the north of the fire, north of Highway 410 and up in the Little Natchez area. And that did officially go into effect today. So those areas are open for visitation again by the public. As I mentioned last time, please be aware that we're still in fire restrictions, level 2. And so that includes no campfires and nothing, no charcoal grills and things like that. So please be vigilant about that as you're enjoying that area. We still have a closure in effect for the area that south of 410 and 410 up this way down through Bumping, and then all the way down south below 12 to the rest of the district, terminating around Conrad Meadows. As operations just spoke, there's been a lot of questions regarding why we have that area from 12 south as folks don't see any apparent risk to that area. And hopefully operations was able to paint the picture that yes, in fact, we do have fire up on the ridge there on Bethel Ridge up above 12. And we are actively implementing a plan to contain that. So I ask for your patience and let these men and women that are out there working hard do their job and get that containment line in, and then we'll revisit and see what the threat is at that time. The Pacific Crest Trail is open. We just ask that folks, it is the western boundary of the closure. So anybody on the Pacific Crest Trail, please don't travel eastward off the Pacific Crest Trail. All those areas are currently closed. There's also been questions about when will the public be able to get back into some areas that are already burned. Just because the fire itself might be out in those areas, we're left with a whole lot of other issues that we have to deal with before we can open that back up to the public. That includes hazard trees. A lot of our roads are in really rough shape after heavy equipment traveling on them. So when it's safe for us to get in there and assess those areas and see what we can open up, we'll look at that. But right now, as I mentioned, our priority is fire suppression and public safety and firefighter safety. So I'll be around to answer any questions. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Miles Pollock. I'm with the Washington Department of Natural Resources. At the last meeting, I spoke about the coordination and partnerships that we have with the agencies here with the U.S. Forest Service and with the local fire districts, Nile and Natchez, and the importance of that. I also spoke about our role as the DNR in fire suppression in timbered lands on state and private land. Tonight, I want to talk a little bit about some of the area that is either burned or planned to be burned, and thinking about the severity of that burn. As you look at a map like this, it can be hard to know what it really looks like on the ground. And some of our foresters and other specialists within the DNR have started to look at some of the areas where it is safe to do so, and they'll be doing more of that as opportunity presents itself. But to look at what the timber stand and the other natural resource values out there look like. And what they found is quite a mix of severity. There are areas that burn quite a bit hotter and other areas where there was just limited fire spread or contained to the ground fuels. And that's good news. And these are fire dependent ecosystems. And so some of that is natural through that process. And that can be a hard realization for all of us in the areas that we love to play and recreate and use for the things that we like to do. But that is what is going on out there. And I appreciate the work of Team 2 and all the resources that are assigned here. And I really appreciate the support of the community through this. The signs that are out there, the folks that stop at gas stations to say thank you. That's really valuable to the firefighters that are doing the work out there. And we appreciate that. I'll be around for any questions. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Clark. I'm the fire chief at Nile Cliffdale Fire and Rescue. I'd like to start this evening by thanking our partners at U.S. Forest Service, Miles at Washington DNR, Director Miller over at Yakima County Office of Emergency Management, as well as Yakima Sheriff's Office and Washington State Patrol. I assure you, without your tireless efforts, our district would not have fared as well as it has in this process. So on behalf of our district, I want to thank you. I'd like to address what question that we get quite frequently, which is the transition between teams. As most of Yakima County Fire Protection District 14 has seen, there's been a shift in team from the Eastern Area Management Type 2 team to the Pacific Northwest 2 Type 1 team. What that means for us as a community is that as the fire obviously has grown in complexity and size, so has the need for resources. And as the Type 1 team has come in, the Type 1 team has brought with them an increased level of resources available, as well as an increased level of, we're very lucky in this regard, knowledge of the area. As a Pacific Northwest based team, many of the members of this team have grown up in the area. They live in the area. They hunt, they fish, they recreate in our backyard. Their knowledge of the challenges that our district presents is just, it's inborn in them, and they understand it. So as they continue to fight the fire up in the woods, I want the people of Nile and Cliffdale to know that the Fighting 410s, we're here supporting their efforts as they fight in the woods. We are doing the same to support their efforts as they do so, as well as maintain the level of service that our citizens have called on us to need. So standard medical, motor vehicle accidents, all of that stuff we continue to do as they're fighting up in the woods. So as the fire now starts to transition and is encroaching upon Natchez, I'll turn over to Chief Baird from Natchez Fire and Rescue. And I want Chief Baird to know that he and certainly all of the Lucky 13s, they've got the Fighting 410s behind them as the fire starts to move towards their district as well. So any other questions, please let me know.
Evening, I'm Alan Baird, the fire chief for Natchez Fire and Rescue, Yakima County 3. As Chief Clark said, and I'd just like to emphasize, with the new team coming in, the level of communication, cooperation between them, my department, and probably with Nile has been really good. We've been kind of in daily contact with them. The information flow has been exceptional. We've been brought into a lot of conversations on structure protection with their group, and it's just been really a good experience. The one thing I'd like to emphasize as far as the district fire responsibilities is that we worked out a plan that was actually put into practice last week in the Nile, where we mobilized county fire districts to come up and assist with structure protection. That plan worked out pretty good. We've kind of tweaked it here and there. So if anything occurs in the future on the Nile district or on the Highway 12 side for the Nile or Natchez district, we've got that plan pretty well worked out, that whatever resources from the county we can bring into it. And then we've also preliminary worked out a possible state mobilization plan if needed. But once again, I'd just like to express our thanks to the team. And I think we're kind of turning the corner on this. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Rob Allen. I'm the incident commander for Pacific Northwest Team 2, and happy to be here again talking to you. You know, one of the things that we have been talking about, and you've heard from our operations folks, we've got about 700 people fighting this fire right now, so we're up what we had before, but that's still not enough people to get all around and do all of the missions that we would like to do on this almost 85,000 acre fire. So we've had to take and prioritize where we needed to put our missions and where we needed to put our people that we can get our work done. And we've really put, as you heard, a lot of energy on the southern end, making sure that we keep that Highway 12 corridor open, knowing that it's a key to commerce and key to being able to make sure that we have recreation and other people will travel back and forth to the forest. A lot of questions on when you're going to hear us be able to open up the road, and really what you can watch is our progress coming across Bethel Ridge. We've started burning now. We'll lock off that corner, and that'll kind of protect the Y. The next area you'll see us starting to pick up activity is around the 199 road, heading towards that comm tower and try to lock off anything coming down towards Rimrock. And hopefully in the next few days, as our county representatives have said, we'll be talking about lowering the evacuation levels on bumping, and we'll also be looking at lowering or starting to shrink up the closure area for the forest. Some of the other things you will see, though, although we've got a lot of energy going on the south end, we still have folks up in the bumping lake area, and we still have folks on that 410. I know up in that Lost Creek area, helicopters were up in there today, keeping track on that fire. As we finish getting the prep work in, we're prepared to burn out along those other areas too, just like we're doing on the southern end. But it might not be a long time until that actually gets there, right? We're monitoring the fire behavior. We're monitoring what's coming down. There's a huge competition for resources. There's multiple other large fires going on in the region right now, and all of them are short on crews too. We've been pretty lucky in asking for our type 1 hotshot crews, our inter-agency hand crews. We're getting a couple more of those in this weekend. That'll really help us hopefully pick up the pace down there. We're going to knock that out and then send them on to other places where they have higher priorities also. As we move forward, you'll see us transitioning kind of out of a lot of the suppression work as we get some of these things done, and in areas out here in the wilderness, as you know, that steep, inaccessible terrain, not a lot of good features out there for us. We'd love to be able to go out there and just put that out, but we don't have the energy, the time, or the people to be able to go do that right now, with other fires needing those resources to go and protect homes and highways and other things. So we'll be monitoring that area out there. We'll be transitioning out of, as we start looking at this, you know, our next phases goes into repair, where we'll try to go back and repair the dozer lines, the things that we put in, the damage that we caused putting the fire out. And then after that, we asked on the last meeting, right, about the bear work or the burn area emergency stabilization work will come in next. After that, the bear team will be assembled, come out, and we'll assess what's out there and make sure that we hit those high points before the rainy season shows up to eliminate that erosion piece. So we'll be starting to see that going, but the problem is for some of that too, a lot of those same overhead that we need, our middle management to run those engines or run those dozers or excavators, and the crews that go out there are also needed to go fight fire in other places. So until California and the rest of Oregon and Washington really slows down and those resources are needed, we'll have to put that on the back channel a little bit to come back in, and that'll be part of what we work on here as a forest moving forward, making those plans to get going forward to make that work out. A lot of work has gone into what we're doing right now. And as you heard from our partners here, it's a real team effort. It takes all the county folks, all the state folks, people from all over the country coming in. We have a crew from Puerto Rico that's just now getting ready to leave and head home. Super important that we get everybody together to do that. And we really can't do it without your support in the local community. People being out there able to help us out when we need a hand. All the letters of thanks really help the folks be encouraged while they're out there working. Really awesome to see that coming in to the folks that are out here. We know we've had some tragedies on some other fires, working really hard to make sure that we get all of our people safe and home. You'll see us an uptick around all of our firefighters with our COVID mitigations also. Again, that comes back to the fact that we have a lot of fire on the landscape and very few firefighters, and we need all of them to be healthy and safe. So we're working on keeping them safe. We appreciate all the help you have. We appreciate all the help from the local fire departments, our county partners, everybody that's chipping into this. It takes everybody to be a part of the team to make this work out. So thanks again for all of your help, and we'll be around to answer questions. Chris?
Thank you, Rob, and I want to thank all of our presenters tonight. Appreciate all their remarks, and I especially appreciate all the comments that folks have been putting into the comment section. I know that we're trying to answer some of those as they come in with our public information officers trying to respond to a bunch of those, and we do have a few that we're gonna talk about here in our question and answer period. One of the questions that came in was, what does the interior look like? Where's the most damage been? And I wanted to refer as another resource and a tool. Part of the video that Barry Kleckler shared is available. The entire video of what Barry Kleckler shared is available on both our Facebook page and on YouTube. And we did a flyover of the entire Schneider Springs fire on August 25th that has some comments and narration, and it's a great resource so folks can really see what the fire looks like, the perimeter, what's happening in some of those interior areas. And I think it's a great resource to answer the question of, again, in some areas where it's a surface fire, it's slowly backing, and other areas where it's in a bowl and there's a lot of decant and fuel, it burned with a little bit more intensity. But I'd like to refer folks, and in fact, we could probably get that link to that video into our comments for you, so you can folks can watch that. It's an 11-minute video, and it's a great tool to see what's happening on the fire. Next, I'd like to ask our operations section chief Reggie Baird to come up and ask him a few questions. One of the questions was partially addressed in his comments, but I'm going to ask Reggie to come on up. And the question was info on cabins in the area across from Rimrock, and just if you could speak about property defense and some of the work you're doing.
Yeah, so cabins here that were mentioned here above Highway 12. We're going through the assessment plan, looking at those, what they need to be safe from fire reaching them. Some of the work that we do is clear brush and debris from around there, give them like a 30-foot space, defensible space. We also put in hose lays, pumps, things like that, water handling equipment. So to use when the fire reaches that area, if it does. So that's some of the things that we do. Yeah, these structures here, they're a long ways from our primary line up here on the north. But we definitely are trying to putting plans in place and also building the alternate line here to secure that, to keep it just another place that we can stop the fire from reaching those values down there.
Great, thanks, Reggie. And so that property defense work, the work you just described happening down here with a question based in the Rimrock, but also in around all the values at risk in those structures is happening the same in all those places, correct?
Yes.
Great. All right. Reggie, another question for you. Comment came in about how you're accessing the Wildcat Road from 1306. There's a question about, you mentioned some access coming up in the Wildcat. If you could talk about that. Yeah, so as they come down the 15 road, they're working off of like the 1305, the 344, and before they get to that washout, they're using just a small part of the 1306, and they're dropping down to the 1381 and coming across.
Some of that they're accessing to get up to the 380 road is coming off of the Highway 12 up through some private. Found just a road that they opened up a 2-track to get up into there to get on up to the 1308 road.
Great, thank you very much, Reggie. The next question we actually have is for Miles. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask Miles to come on up, if you could, please, and I'll read the question as he's walking up here. Miles, if you could just speak to the question is Eagle Rock in danger as well as houses across the road, the Flying Youth Ranch? If you could speak to that,
Sure.
please.
Okay, so Eagle Rock, orient myself to this map. Here's Flying H Loop, and Eagle Rock would be right about here. And you can see that the planned containment line in the area that Reggie spoke about earlier, and the firing operation that's coming down the Malloy Road, that would put Eagle Rock and the Flying H Youth Ranch just a little bit outside of that planned fire perimeter. So I believe the question was at risk or threat?
In danger.
In danger. So with the good work of firefighters and the planned actions, it should not be, but it is near the area that we're using as a primary containment line.
Great, thank you very much, Miles. And again, just want to remind folks, again, we're trying to answer some questions. I know there's some that have come in that we're going to do a little bit more research on to make sure we get you the best answer that we can. We will continue to monitor your comments and chat after this video is posted so that we can answer any questions you have at the end. The last question that we have tonight that I would like to ask our Incident Commander Rob Allen to come up. We did get a question about, could you speak about why the priority is in the south and not some of the other areas in the communities along the 410? So Rob, if you could emphasize for folks that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. As a recovering ops chief, they always get nervous when I point at the map. So when I got up here earlier, I started trying to talk about where our priorities are and what we were trying to do. And a part of it is looking at the fuels, the fire weather, the fire behavior we're having right now, the fuels, and where we know historically fires burn. One of the advantages we have is, as our county folks have pointed out, this team is local. I'm the fire management officer for the Okanagan-Wenatchee National Forest, so very familiar with how we have fires burn around here. And as we're looking at the map and we're looking at this straight edge that comes across here that hasn't moved in over a week since we've been here, it's just slowly backing down the hill. We're able to keep an eye on that, and we can get ourselves prepped to be ahead of it. And we'll keep burning out and keeping along these edges here as they're moving along to keep that out. And it's not going to kick up a lot of speed. Now, the area that we were concerned about is this whole area down here and how all these drainages all line up with our normal northwest winds coming out of here. We get a lot of push downhill from from that big volcano that's up there out to that big drainage river on the other end. The air flows that way. Good opportunity for this to pick up speed and really push and come all the way down, close both the highways at the Y, and come in and impact Natchez and even farther down. So with the limited number of resources that we have to make some decisions on where we can get a lot of work done. So you'll see us bouncing around. Like I said, they're still working on this containment line here. We had helicopters up in here today, keeping that in check while we finish working down here. Once we get this corner done, we tie in a little here, get this corner done, we'll be back up and looking at that. But with the type 1 team, we're able to split our resources because we have more management with us, which is why we have the last team that was here had the fire broken out into just divisions. And we have a branch up top and a branch in the south. So we've got people that are looking at just those two sides. And that's how we start to set our priorities on what we have right now, what we have a high probability of being successful accomplishing. And we started looking at our highest values at risk to start with. And that works out to be this corner, here, and then we end up back over here on that one. I wanted to go back to Wildcat a little bit too. Accessing that road, I know that everybody would love to have us fix that washout that's in there. We went back and forth. I've talked about it with the local ranger district, talked about it with our forest engineer today. That's a pretty big project for us to get that going. And as Reggie said, our primary line is up here on the hill and bringing this fire and turning it back into the wilderness. And that's probably where we'll end up holding up for now, knowing that given the weather, shorter days, shorter burn periods, more weather coming in with those systems coming in with more moisture. We know that this area up here, right, has a lot more green, big timber, big trees. Down here is light grass, flashy fuels. We'll be monitoring this area and watching this go. We're putting in plans to tie in lines across here if we have to, This line here is an alternate line if we have to come down to that. But right now, we're feeling pretty confident that we have a high probability of being successful of finishing out this burnout across here, tying it in. This hasn't moved in over a week also since we've been here. We're monitoring that closely. We'll have plans in place to go out after that if we need to, but it's not something that we can go after right now because we just don't have the number of personnel resources to be able to go do that. So as we move forward, we'll be looking at that. We'd love to fix that piece of road going across there, but we don't have the resources to be able to do that right now. Either those resources are needed to be working on other parts of the fire to make sure that we're covering the resource, covering the risks that are at play right now. And that being a secondary piece of line is not in the cards for us to pick up right now. So, Chris.
Great, thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. Again, all of our presenters and folks that were able to respond to your questions. Again, we'll continue to monitor those and look for some of the comments that our staff is answering in response to your questions online as well. I do want to thank everybody for engaging with us tonight, asking the questions, tuning in to see what's happening on the Schneider Springs fire. I appreciate your time. I wanted to remind folks as a resource, I continue to get updates and information about the fire here on the Facebook page. We are posting video and other content to the Schneider Springs Fire YouTube channel where you can watch videos and see the work that's being done out there on the ground. And then we also have a phone line. So if you do have questions and you would like to call us, you can call us at 509-653-1468. And you can email us at 2021.schneidersprings@firenet.gov. And I want to make sure I got that email right. So thank you again. We will post information about any future public meetings that we're hosting on Facebook Live as they get scheduled. So thanks for joining us.